Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Star Wars retrospective. We are now on the last film of the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi. I'm Flynn.
I'm Gianni.
We're joined once again by Luke.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Luke is a big fan of Return of the Jedi, yeah?
Big fan. Big fan. It's actually my favorite Star Wars movie.
Where do we want to start with this? It came out on May 25th, 1983, directed by Richard Marquand. And we see our heroes kind of in a catastrophe in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, well, because Empire just left them in disarray in every way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why I loved Empire so much, because, the campiness of 4 was great, but then Empire got dark, and then Jedi brought it home.
Yeah. Yeah, Empire leaves us kind of on a cliff, hanging from a cliffhanger. As our heroes are it's kind of the peak of the story of the original trilogy, like the where do you go from here moment. And
All is lost.
Right. And we're kind of scattered a little bit. Han's gone, he's frozen in carbonite. And we kind of don't know what our next step is, but we go into Return of the Jedi, which opening of Return of the Jedi, the Jabba's palace set piece is some of the best Star Wars. It is so much fun. We see Luke Skywalker is now in this movie. He is really a Jedi master at this point. We see him with his green lightsaber, which is still probably the best lightsaber in all of Star Wars.
Agreed. I own a replica.
The thin emitter. It's just, I remember being a kid and watching Return of the Jedi just thinking, man, I want that.
Well, it's not even just that, too. It's like the way that all they did was change his costume, and he felt like a completely different character.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see the aftermath of Dagobah. Like, we just knew that Luke was leaving because he had to when he got to Cloud City.
Right.
But then after Cloud City, we saw the changed Luke in that Tatooine scene. And, of course, it comes back to Tatooine because it's where he grew up.
Of course, yeah.
So it was, a really cool full circle thing to be like, you start Episode 4 at Tatooine, and you start Episode 6 at Tatooine.
For sure.
And he's no longer that boy from Tatooine, right?
He's not a moisture farmer anymore.
Clearly.
Complaining about going to Tashi Station becomes power converters.
Yeah, he kind of has that grow up moment, not just in the training, but when he has this confrontation with Darth Vader on Bespin. That's kind of the moment where things change, and Luke's a full adult now.
It's like the hero's journey.
Yeah, exactly.
He went through those events like Odysseus and the Odyssey.
Right.
And like now he's been through it.
Yeah.
He is Luke Skywalker. Because obviously, as Star Wars fans now, we know him as the Jedi.
Right.
If you think of Jedi, if your brain is going to Luke Skywalker, it probably goes to Anakin.
Yeah.
But Luke is that guy. And in the new trilogy, he's known as throughout the universe as that. This is that Luke. This is the beginning of that Luke.
Right.
And that's probably why I love this movie the most of the three too. Because for me, Star Wars is Luke Skywalker's story. And that it was the culmination of it, and just Mark Hamill delivered a great performance in those movies,
for sure.
And just Return of the Jedi, as a kid I loved it so much. And as a kid, sometimes it changes when you get older.
Yeah.
Those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies that are live action, I love them as a kid. Now they're just ugh. But no, Return of the Jedi held up for me, and just wow, that movie did that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We get we get Boba Fett getting to do a little bit more in this movie in the first act, and
he's the biggest tease character ever. They really made up for it with all the expanded universe stuff, but just from 4, 5, and 6 standpoint, you see him in one shot in 4. You see him twice in 5, and then in 6 you see him die.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Boba Fett in the main canon just films does nothing, and I think it's so funny.
It's hilarious, and he's such a beloved character.
Yeah.
Even before the Clone Wars and all the extra stuff.
And it speaks to how cool that design of that character is.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the stuff in Jabba's palace is so cool. It's so much fun. We get it's kind of like a heist at points, because we have Leia get captured, and then so now Luke has to come and rescue both of them. There's the stuff with Lando in that scene,
because we thought Lando had betrayed everybody. And it was okay,
we get that. And now
which is very very on point for Lando's character.
Yeah, it's so good. And we get the little moment where everybody's nodding to each other when they're on the skiff as R2.
You could probably just throw Ocean's 11 music over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when R2 sends Luke's lightsaber to him, so good, so much fun, and we see Luke, just wildly swinging around on that skin.
Oh, it was
Very
amazing.
dangerous, but he's a Jedi master, so everything turns out fine.
He could sense who he didn't want
Exactly.
to swing at. Yeah, no. And that scene alone is just so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I had to do a project where it was like the theme song of my life, and I took clips from my favorite movies, and that clip of Luke just like hacking and stuff is in that. Like, he does the flip, and then he just starts swinging.
Yeah, he gets a lot of hacking moments in
Yeah.
this film too. I think we really see kind of the angry side of Luke Skywalker
Yes.
too
Well,
here.
because of all the stuff with his dad, you
Yeah.
know? Daddy issues are real.
Daddy issues are very real.
Yeah, Star Wars is not afraid to tackle the big issues.
That's right.
The second Death Star is in this film.
Yeah.
Which that was so cool too, because like obviously the Death Star itself was awesome, like just seeing that. But like the fact that they made it unfinished, like I thought that went a long
visually,
way.
yeah.
Like just like the story, because the Empire was rebuilding from these little rebels screwing
Yeah.
them up.
Yep.
And it's like even though they're the Empire in control of the galaxy, they're still like they still have to rebuild that whole station,
Yeah.
you know? And visually it looked so cool unfinished. Now Lego set wise it was very frustrating, but
Yeah,
visually
I
awesome.
can imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I think of Return of the Jedi, I really think of fun. I think that this is a fun. I think that everything on the Forest Moon of Endor is really fun. Ewoks get a
speeders.
Ewoks get a bad rap at times, but I love Ewoks.
I love
and they're
Ewoks
fun
too.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially now that like because I'm not a Porg guy. Especially because
Okay.
people are like Porgs or Ewoks. I'm like Ewoks every day, bro. They can at least fight with you, you know.
yeah,
And you
they
don't
have
expect
spears.
it. You don't expect it from an Ewok.
We don't know the full capabilities of a Porg yet.
That
Okay.
is
You're
true.
telling me we're
Nesting
gonna
in the
see
Falcon.
this is Gianni's bold prediction for episode 9.
Yeah.
That Porgs will bring down.
Porgs will
First
bring
Order.
balance to the Force.
Listen,
yes.
we
That
see them.
sentence made me cringe.
We see them nesting in the Millennium Falcon, so you never know if maybe a Porg is gonna pull up on some wire and start steering the
See,
Falcon. It could
realistically,
happen.
I just think it's a product placement for like Popeyes or Chick-fil-A that Chewie's just gonna be snacking
Oh,
on
no.
Porgs. He already tried to.
He
so.
tried. He didn't do it.
Yet.
He murdered a Porg and roasted it, but
You-
he didn't need
hey,
it.
hey, if we have learned anything from these movies, it's let the Wookiee win.
Yeah, yeah. What else do you guys want to talk about Return of the Jedi?
I think like the point you brought up, how it was like a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like episode 4 introduced everything, which is just a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like the most fun movie, but it had a good ending
Yeah.
in case they didn't get to do another. Empire was just like literally all is lost, everything's
Yeah.
screwed. Like now what? Because they knew they had the leverage to do that this time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they did it with 4, we might have never seen
Right.
another. But because 4 is a contained movie, it worked. But then Return of the Jedi is that fun movie. And I feel like for me as a kid, that was just like what sold me on Star Wars completely. Was seeing the end of that trilogy and being like,
Yeah.
wow, like that story was so cool.
Yeah.
And like Endor itself was just my favorite. It might still be my favorite planet. I don't know.
Sure.
They've introduced a lot more
Yeah.
since. I'm a Camino guy too.
Yeah, yeah.
but like
I like the
Endor
rain.
itself is just a cool set, and then learning that it's like San Francisco where they filmed it.
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
ridiculous. Like just it's so cool. Like one of my friends went to school there, and he sends me Snapchats when they go hiking.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
you're in Endor.
Yeah.
Like what the heck? But yeah, no, I just feel like the movie itself is exactly what it needed to be in '83, and still now is that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like looking back on this movie, I feel like sometimes it gets a bit of a bad rap, and some people.
It really does.
Yeah,
I mean, it followed up Empire.
yeah,
That's why.
for sure. But it's weird, even though it's probably the third out of 3 for me for the original trilogy. That doesn't mean I don't love it with all my heart. It just speaks to how great the original trilogy is. But I feel like as people revisit it, some people tend to think that it's bad or that it doesn't measure up to either. And I just completely disagree. It's just
Yeah.
that it's a different type of movie. And as much as I love the sequel trilogy, if this was the end of this saga, it would have worked perfectly.
Same,
I love it's cheesy, but the celebration at the end of Return of the Jedi on Endor, on the Forest Moon of Endor with the Force ghosts and everybody celebrating, and George Lucas retconned and added other celebrations, so we get to see the Gungans celebrating then too, which I know everybody was clamoring for.
I mean, I'm always wondering what are the Gungans up to.
Exactly. So to see just the galaxy liberated in that moment is so rewarding, and to see Luke Skywalker's journey sort of end on that as like he's peaked in his powers, and he defeats the Empire while also saving the soul of his father and helping to redeem him and getting that last moment. And it just adds so much more complexity to Vader's character. It's so true to who Luke is, to try and save somebody like that and to lead with love. And it's a really good, satisfying conclusion if the series ends right there.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, that's everything, all right, with this film, the redemption of Darth Vader. Luke is a character, he's the perfect protagonist because he is beat down in all three of these films constantly, and he still gets back up, and he's still looking for the good and looking for that way to win, and he's eager to win, but he's also, like I said, he's looking for the good in his father, and I think that redemption of Darth Vader, to me, is what makes this that perfect culmination, especially when you have the prequels as a companion piece.
Yeah.
If anything, I would think that this film should be held in higher regard, even today, even though, like you were saying, it's kind of been the bad apple of the bunch on people's lists.
get
But
that.
yeah, I
To
think
me,
it's really
like,
great.
I mean, I know it's like everybody has their own personal opinions because,
Sure.
like, ranking them, like, I would say Episode 1's my favorite of the prequels, and Episode 6 is my favorite of the original trilogy, which are both hot takes.
Yeah.
but like that's the beauty of it is
Yeah.
like this story is just so universal. So many people
Right.
can enjoy it. Luke is such a beloved character. Like I think it's safe to say he's my favorite movie character.
Yeah.
But like in general, like this movie just did what it had to do and did it in a fun way because they could have made another dark movie like Empire.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I think it would have felt forced.
Right.
Like I feel like Empire had the
Forced.
right tone for the right movie, and then Jedi had the right tone for the right movie
Right.
as well. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something that's so cool about Star Wars when you can have like conversations about it, because there's always going to be with every franchise the people on the internet that just kind of like hate and want to, you know, have like disparaging conversations about everything and just tear things down. And the Star Wars fan base certainly has a lot of that you see on the internet. But when you can,
much.
yeah, for sure. But when you can talk to people about Star Wars and see like, well, some people really like Rogue One and some people don't really like Rogue One, and to see like what you value in your Star Wars, because ultimately it means something different to everybody. But because it's so meaningful in those moments, is why it survived today and why it's still so popular today, because it means something that can be different for everybody, but Star Wars still tugs on the heartstrings and gives you something that you can relate to and something you can believe in. And I think that's really the beauty of Star Wars, and it certainly shines through in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched on it earlier a little bit, but the rebuilding of the Empire in this film, the stakes are still so high for the heroes.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what kind of keeps that perfect balance between dark and light throughout the film, of it being this kind of campy, you know, we have the Ewoks in the film, but then it's also like, oh yeah, the Death Star could also decimate
Yeah.
this planet at any
given
moment, you
yeah.
know?
And it's like interesting that you say that too, because like 4, the Empire's in control. 5, it's like you can see the rebels are starting to get somewhere because of the end of 4. But then it's like no, Empire steps on them again.
Yeah.
And then 6 is like the first time the rebels really have a shot. And like I love too that, like I said before, how they went back to Tatooine, but they also added in the forest moon of Endor because we hadn't really seen a forest like setting yet.
Yeah.
Because like through the 3 movies, like those 3 alone, if that was the only Star Wars we ever got, we got a good variety of planets.
Yeah.
And I loved that. Where like, I mean, like Tatooine's great, but I'm so glad they left Tatooine.
Right.
Because Endor is such a great location,
Yeah.
and like for the battle they had, where it was like half in space with Lando flying the Falcon,
Yeah.
and then like half on the ground with Han just like begrudgingly shooting
Yeah.
stormtroopers. Still 3 movies later.
Yeah, Han
But-
is just going on this goofy journey and,
Of,
and,
like,
and
I'm just here.
tapping troopers' shoulders and running around.
And then like
that's so much
Chewie
fun.
pops up in the
Yeah,
water.
yeah.
And they're like, it's Chewie. But yeah, no, I mean, I just love that because it's like you want the variety. When
Yes,
you're in like
yeah.
a galaxy, you want to see more of the galaxy. And we've certainly gotten a very good taste of it now. like,
Yeah.
being spoiled with almost 11 movies. Like we're
Yeah.
about to have the 11th movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 TV shows. Mandalorian's lit.
Yeah.
This is the way. But yeah, no, like I'm just getting giddy thinking about Return of the
Yeah,
Jedi.
me too. I'm definitely feeling it as well. And I mean, talking about how great of a location Endor is, it's so interesting looking at the original trilogy because those locations don't need to have like a deep, like Tatooine's a desert, Hoth is snowy, Dagobah's a swamp.
stereotypes,
Yeah, Endor's
but
a
it's
forest. They're
fine.
just the simplest location types, but they find a way to infuse them with so much life and so much character that you don't feel like Endor is just any forest. You really feel like it's this own location. And Tatooine, you don't feel like it's any desert. It's this sort of murky place where scum and villainy love to play.
Atlantic
And
City.
Yeah.
Just kidding, it's better now.
Yeah, so like being able to do that in these sets, to have such a simple base, but to be able to infuse life in them is really good.
Well,
and
that's part of the reason why these movies worked.
Right.
Was like back then, like the visual effects weren't where it needed to be. Because
Yeah.
like now in The Mandalorian, I think it's the best Star Wars has ever looked, the aliens wise and the sets. Just because like the technology is ridiculous now. What you can do, you can literally like create faces.
Yeah.
But like back then, they were the pioneers of it.
Right.
You know. And like some of those sets and some of those aliens, like are some of the most memorable images of movies for me. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the production design is really the reason that those movies hold up so well
Yeah.
over the years. And Return of the Jedi just improved so much on all fronts. I mean, the special effects team did a great job. It's just a really good-looking film for having come out in 1983. And I'm sure at the time it looked amazing,
Yeah,
as did the
mind-blowing.
previous two films.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of that together, I think, like I said earlier, it really makes it, I think, that perfect culmination for me of those first two films. And then once you have the prequels as a companion piece, I think it works so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, visually, I love the color palette of
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi. The yellows, the greens, the earthy tones. So visually, this movie, really just is great, and it makes you feel good watching it.
Yeah,
really
and,
does.
and we see the most of the Emperor in this film,
We
too. We see him die, but we also
Yeah.
see really the height of his powers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a menace.
That whole scene is so cool though, because like Force lightning is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and even like the '83 effects still did the job. Like, whoa.
Yeah, and I remember that was really scary looking
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
Like
it
as a
was.
kid to see Luke like that, like I was, oh,
Yeah.
I
But-
was so sad.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, Luke, no.
But then his dad steps in, and
Yeah,
And
and we
it's
get
like
that
the
moment.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars.
Yeah. Yep.
Star Wars.
Yeah, we get the soul saving moment
Yeah.
of Vader tossing the Emperor down a laundry chute.
Which, like, if you think about Star Wars, though, like a lot of times, like there's this whole universe and there's all these people, but it's really like a select, like handful of people
Yeah.
that actually control what's going on, and that's what these movies and shows follow, and I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like a reality show. And like we're watching the people on a reality
Yeah.
show, and they're just like, "Oh, this is our galaxy.
Yeah,
like these are our
the
planets."
Skywalker family drama.
Yeah, it's like keeping up with the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
yeah,
But for real though, like I just love seeing that story come to such a nice end.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you said, the prequels supplementing it, learning about Anakin, learning about Luke and Leia's mother. Like everything like that is just so cool. Cause like the fact that Luke has pulled this off too. Like
Yeah.
this alone is just like damn.
Yeah.
Like he managed to make 3 movies that were numbered 4, 5, and 6 in like the 80s and 70s, and then go back and make 1, 2, and 3, and it
Yeah.
all makes sense, and it be like the best grossing movie franchise
For
ever.
sure.
Like that's ridiculous. Like that sentence is so dumb,
Yeah.
but I love it.
Yeah, it speaks to the creativity of George Lucas, and from A New Hope, it kind of just sets up like everything we need, and A New Hope might be the best base ever made to
Oh,
build
yeah.
off of for a franchise.
100% agree.
Like the best launching point, because everything after it doesn't work if A New Hope doesn't work, and it does.
And on top of that too, like I feel like what a lot of franchises don't understand, and Star Wars pulled off in '77, was if nothing else ever happened, A New Hope still was good.
Yes, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you could still watch it and be like, this was good.
Yeah.
And then in the same regard, if nothing else ever happened after 6, those 3 movies would still be regarded
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
same way. And that's huge. That's beautiful
Yeah.
that they managed to pull that off.
Yeah, and I think that some of the most lasting imagery from Star Wars is Jedi Luke and is black with his green lightsaber, and saving Vader.
I am a Jedi.
Yeah.
Like my father before me.
Absolutely, and the demasking of Darth Vader to
That was
reveal
shooketh moment.
yes, yeah, to reveal that humanity of the character, visually after we get that moment of him taking on the Emperor is just so good. And like we were talking about with supplementing material with the prequels, that moment has even more weight when you look at the beginning of Anakin and the Emperor's relationship and how manipulative it is and how controlling it is for Vader after all those years to be able to, take him on and cast those shackles off to save his son. Such a great story beat in Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
So some closing thoughts on Return of the Jedi. As I stated earlier, I think this is that perfect culmination. So many of the themes of this franchise and of this story of Star Wars shine through here in this film, of love and of family. And that's what I love about it, and that's why I like to revisit it so much.
So one thing I forgot to mention was I think this is my favorite soundtrack of any Star Wars movie.
Ooh, yeah.
I think the music itself is just so like the day Episode 7 came out, I was just playing the Return of the Jedi soundtrack all day. Just Blinders on the internet because I saw it Friday, not Thursday, and I was like, "Don't look, Return of the Jedi soundtrack. I'm good." But no, this is my favorite Star Wars movie because it's everything that is great about Star Wars put into one movie, and it's just a great ending to the original trilogy. It's a great ending to the 6 movies, and it's a great jumping point for the new trilogy.
Yeah.
So I feel like even though it's not the best movie because there are better movies, for me it just holds a special place in my heart of what it was able to do,
right?
And, all the factors we talked about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, enjoy the fact that it gives a definitive ending, even though I think that we got something really valuable in the sequel trilogy. If it ended there, it's a really good way to wrap this story up. Again, I think it's a lot of fun. All the stuff on Tatooine, I think, is a lot of fun. All the stuff on the Forest Moon of Endor is a lot of fun. And I think that it gets a bad rap at times, and I think that Return of the Jedi is...
It don't deserve it.
Yeah, it's a really worthwhile movie to watch. I think that you can watch it on its own and get a lot of value out of it, and I think you can watch it with the original trilogy and get a lot of value in it, and I think that you can watch it as a full marathon rewatch and have a lot of value in that place of the story. And that's not an easy thing to pull off, so I think that Return of the Jedi did a really good job.
Yeah. So that wraps up our 6th retrospective. That was wild.
I feel like it was literally yesterday when you guys were like, "Can I do a movie podcast?" And I was just like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah,
and now here we are. Look at us.
Look at us.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Not me.
Yeah, this is exciting.
Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the places at Chatting Cinema. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks so much to SSTV for allowing us to use the equipment, as always. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.